afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roberto Venetello, and I am the Executive Director of the Business Council for Sustainable Development Malaysia, also known as BCSD Malaysia. Welcome to this online event entitled Technology with Purpose, Innovative Solutions for a Better Future. This event is brought to you by BCSD Malaysia in collaboration with Siemens Malaysia. I wish to start by thanking all attendees for spending your afternoon with us today. We really appreciate the effort. I also want to thank the distinguished speakers who have agreed to join us for this interesting event. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the topic of the day, allow me to remind you who we are. The Business Council for Sustainable Development, BCSD Malaysia, is an independent non-profit organization that helps companies embed sustainability into the core business strategy and operations. BCSD Malaysia is a global partner of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, also known as WBCSD. And through education, training, capacity building, and special projects, we want to drive systems transformation, which is vital to transition to a world where over 9 billion people can live well and within the planetary boundaries by 2050. We will hear this mantra a couple of times within this event today, because this is our vision that we call Vision 2050. It's a vision that we share with WBCSD. So at the same time, what we try to do here at BCSD Malaysia is we strive to make a more sustainable business more successful. So create a link by sustainability, performance, and the success of an organization. Like WBCSD, the World Business Council, we work with business mostly around 6 main areas where systems transformation is really and badly needed. These areas are circular economy, cities and mobility, climate and energy, food and nature, social issues and human rights, and the last one, we call it redefining value, which deals with shareholders management, ESG risk management, reporting, governance, and assurance. In all these areas, we initiate projects with concrete and measurable output. They all take a science-based approach, and we aim to targeted business solutions to scale up impact. So let's go to the topic of today's event. So what is the nexus between technology and sustainable development? This is a very important question. We will try to shed some light here and talk about this specific issue today. Can technology help sustainability? So ladies and gentlemen, the answer is yes, a big yes. This is what we're going to talk about today, and I believe many of you here are keen to know more about this. Technology has the power to increase productivity, for example, efficiency and cost savings, reduce product waste, chemicals and resources. Also, technology has the power to measure, analyze, and track progress. It's a very important function, of which can help tackle environment, social, and governance challenges, the so-called ESG challenges. Innovative technological solutions are essential to transform areas of high societal impact, including environmental protection, energy transition, decarbonization of industry and infrastructure, transport and mobility, and others. Today, our esteemed speakers will share with us some cutting-edge technologies that have been adopted in different industries that can help attendees understand that innovative solutions are available, at reach, and will hopefully be conducive to our Vision 2050, a world where over 9 billion people can live well within the planetary boundaries by mid-century. When talking about technology, it is important to have a real experts, to talk with real experts and have them participating in the discussion. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky and also proud to have with us supporting this important discussion, Siemens, a technology company, which is focused on industry, infrastructure, transport, and healthcare. An undisputed world leader in technology solutions and especially leader in technology with purpose, which is what we're going to talk about today. Today's program will last for 2 hours and 15 minutes, perhaps 5 minutes more, but we don't anticipate too much longer. We're very honored to have the chairman of Malaysia Green Technology and Climate Change Center, and GTC, and is also the one of the directors of BCSD in Malaysia and the honorary treasurer, is Professor Dato Engineer Dr. Bakar Jafar to officiate our event with his opening remarks. The first part of the program includes a keynote presentation from Siemens, 2 case studies, one from Port Tanjung Pelepas, PTP, and one from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, WBCSD, followed by a short Q&A session. During the second part of the program, there will be a fireside chat session with the President and CEO of Siemens Malaysia, Mr. Adam Yee, followed by a panel discussion on sustainable mobility as a key to transformation for low-carbon cities. Ladies and gentlemen, before we kick off, allow me to share with you a couple of housekeeping items. The whole proceeding of our event today is being recorded, so be mindful of that. Participants will be kept on mute during the event. However, feel free to type your questions in the question panel. We will try to answer your questions during the Q&A session. We may have to lump some of the questions together in the interest of time. We'll do our best. Now, without further ado, let us start the event with some opening remarks by the chairman of Malaysia Green Tech Corporation, MGTC, and also the director and honorary treasurer of BCSD Malaysia, Dr. Bakar Jafar. Dr. Bakar is a professor at UTM Perdana Center, Razak Faculty of Technology and Informatics, and also a research fellow at UTM Ocean Thermal Energy Center. He has served the government of Malaysia in various capacities since 1973. And even after his voluntary retirement, he continued to serve the government of Malaysia as the elected member of the United Nations Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, UNCLOS. Without further ado, over to Dato' Bakar.
Dear esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, technology took a stage at the COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow a few weeks ago. Achieving anything close to an average rise in global temperatures of 1.5 degrees Celsius will require not only policy, regulation, and financing, but also new technology breakthrough. If we are to hit our climate change target, that it is critical that technologies are developed, scaled up, and made available around the globe. This is one of the greatest challenges that countries, especially developing countries, face in realizing sustainable development, obtaining and putting in place the necessary technologies. I'm referring to technologies that have significant impact in our daily lives. Technologies that will allow for over 9 billion people to live well within the planetary boundaries by 2050. Have access not only to clean air, but also to clean water through water purification, efficiency, delivery, and sanitary technologies. Have access to energy that is clean, affordable, and sustainable through energy-efficient technologies and technologies that use renewable sources of energy. Live in a less toxic environment by putting in place alternative agricultural and industrial technologies that reduce the quantity and toxicity of the raw materials and processes. Live in a more stable environment by mitigating the effects of climate change through technologies that allow more energy efficient processes and emissions control of technologies that assist in land use planning. Technologies that enable us to be more effective and efficient in managing natural resources. Or technologies that allow us to monitor compliance and enforcement, providing public access to information, building capacity, and raising public awareness. In the coming years, thanks to human ingenuity and large investment, we will see key technology breakthroughs that will make clean power the most affordable and reliable option for all. Zero-emission vehicles to become the new normal. New zero-emission steel and other materials to be the preferred choice in global markets. For hydrogen to be globally available, and for climate-smart, sustainable agriculture to be the most attractive and widely adopted option for farmers everywhere. Carbon capture, utilization, and carbon storage, including direct air capture technologies, will help offset emissions that some carbon-intense industries will still inevitably produce, helping the world stay closer to a 1.5 degrees Celsius path. Ladies and gentlemen, technology is key to a more sustainable future, and I'm not referring only to combating climate change. Technology has been critical to the pandemic response, from allowing us to work, learn, shop, socialize, even see a doctor from home, to helping the world safely reopen with tools like vaccine passports, rapid testing, and contact tracing apps. However, technologies are not inherently good or bad. Their impact on society and environment is a combination of how and for what they are utilized and any subsequent unintended consequences. Even where intentions are good, negative impacts often go hand in hand with positive ones. If we are not careful, technology can exacerbate inequalities. And two, while COVID-19 accelerated digitization, it also exposed even more clearly the gaps that still exist in digital access. Responsible technology governance is needed to protect against discriminatory algorithms, unethical use of data, and job displacement. With increased dependency on the internet, cyber attacks are up, and we all need to work together to fight back. Artificial intelligence can amplify racial and gender biases. Data-hungry digital technologies require significant amounts of energy, and automation could potentially eliminate many jobs, livelihoods, as it increases productivity. We must work to ensure secure, inclusive access to all these innovations now and in the future. At the same time, we must handle the unintended consequences that have already arisen. Now, what is the role of business in this? It is my firm belief that business plays a crucial role in making sure that innovation processes set goals around social and environmental impact and anticipate and avoid negative unintended consequences. This will not only be good for society, but will lead to more resilient and sustainable business models. Today, I'm delighted to officiate this webinar entitled Technology with Purpose, Innovative Solutions for a Better Future, organized by Business Council for Sustainable Development Malaysia in collaboration with Siemens Malaysia. This collaboration with Siemens Malaysia is a meaningful step towards increasing awareness and understanding how technology could help with advancing our sustainability efforts. To our esteemed speakers and experts, we thank you for your generous insights on good practices and cutting-edge technologies that have been adopted in many different countries. And to all our attendees, we thank you for being here with us today. We hope you will enjoy the speakers' presentations and informative speeches. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Bakar, for officiating our event and so nicely setting the scene for what is coming today. Your speech, your opening remarks were, in my point of view, very relevant because they talk about the role of technology, and it's precisely what is going to be the topic of the day. We will kickstart today's event by introducing technology with purpose, technology that provides innovative solutions in areas of high societal impact. The next presentation, entitled Leading Transformation to Foster a Sustainable World Today and Tomorrow, will be delivered by Ms. Jenny Boffinger-Schuster, a Senior VP for Sustainability and Operational Excellence at Siemens. Ms. Boffinger-Schuster is responsible for covering the company's global sustainability program and its implementation. With more than 12 years experience in management consultancy, Ms. Jenny was made a partner of Siemens Management Consulting, where she developed trend-setting strategies in areas ranging from mobility to healthcare around the globe. Her professional focus encompasses resource and energy efficiency, sustainability management, and Siemens business to society approach, addressing the challenges caused by urbanization, climate change, and globalization. Due to time difference, Ms. Jenny will not be able to join us in person. However, we hope you enjoy the speech she pre-recorded especially for this occasion. The video can start now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk today about leading the transformation to foster a sustainable world today and tomorrow. This topic is super close to my heart, not only because I'm responsible for sustainability at Siemens, but also because I'm a mom. And I do want that my kids and my grandkids grow up in a beautiful world. You, being a participant of the Business Council for Sustainable Development, you all know that we are facing global challenges in our industries, in our markets, in our societies, which require change. Change in the way we live, and also change in the way we do business. Today, I want to share with you some insights on the possibilities and opportunities that we can apply to lead this change. Decarbonization and resource efficiency is often the very first focus. We really need to find answers to key questions, such as, how can we reduce emissions? How can we increase the share of renewables in our energy mix? How can we electrify, for example, our mobility sector? And also, how can we find ways to capture carbon and find net zero alternatives? And of course, we always have the ultimate goal in mind, to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. And we see that the global transformations have a very concrete impact on ourselves and also on our customers. The good news is, we do have answers to these questions. Already today, we can contribute to shaping the transition to a resource-efficient and competitive economy for and also with our customers together. Digitalization is helping us on this journey. Digitalization is really a key enabler, empowering us to master the sustainable transformation. Because by combining the real and the digital worlds, we leverage today's infrastructure and we can already transform it for tomorrow. let me give you some proof points from our operations. Because, of course, we share the challenges that our customers are having. We are a global company with 300,000 employees. We have over 200 manufacturing sites all around the world and some 40,000 vehicles in our fleet. And yes, we are committed to becoming CO2 neutral by 2030, and we have already reduced our emissions by more than 50%. This year, we have accelerated our commitment and have enhanced it to the entire value chain by joining the Science Based Targets initiative. And we are well underway on our path to 1.5 degrees. The technologies that we are using in-house are also the ones that we are offering to our customers. And with our technologies from our Siemens environmental portfolio, our customers saved almost 19 million tons of CO2 last year. And that's just one example. There's much more in what we call technology with purpose. Let's look into industry. We help our industrial customers to transform their business, to do more with less, using fewer resources. Automation, digitalization, the intelligent use of data in the industrial IoT enables them to, for example, manufacture products that are more sustainable, make production smarter and with that more resource efficient, or, for example, to ensure greater transparency of a product CO2 footprint across the supply chain. In buildings, with our smart buildings and smart grids portfolio, we can support a sustainable energy transition and create more sustainable communities. We, for example, intelligently connect energy systems, buildings, and industries, enhancing the way we live and also enhancing the way we work to improve efficiency and sustainability. Or in transport, with our environmentally friendly trains, intermodal offerings, and also data-driven services, we sustainably transform the transport industry, and we also deliver mobility solutions that are very much helping to enable profitable operations. And we do all this also here in Malaysia. For example, we support the Malaysian government's initiative to enhance sustainable energy and energy efficiency. A huge nationwide project has started already in 2015 and has been rolled out nationwide. With our smart meters and data management system, we are a super proud partner of this initiative, and we contribute to create a more sustainable and resilient energy mix in Malaysia, and at the same time, bring a better user experience to the population. So what's the impact of a smart metering? Well, in the first step, it's bringing transparency about the energy consumption. And with that, you can then optimize. You can act more energy efficient. You can also, for example, use cheaper off-peak tariffs. And you do not need manual billing facilities anymore. Another example on how we create impact in Malaysia. Siemens Digital Industries in Malaysia has established the Siemens Innovation and Resource Training Center, which trains talents in the fields that we really need more competencies in. Be it IoT, AI, robotics, and then combining this technical know-how with critical thinking, problem solving, and soft skills. In our partnership with several universities all around Malaysia, we train more than 4,000 people per year in and from Malaysia. When it comes to the question of what is the impact of a company, I believe it's more than profit, and it's also more than the number of saved CO2 emissions. Equally relevant is how many jobs do we create, how do we engage socially, and how do we ensure that we act ethically and for the long term. Overall, what are the benefits and values that we create as a company, for our customers, for our people, for society, and for our planet. We have thoroughly thought about this at Siemens and how we can bring this to something tangible. We've then come up with our new sustainability strategy, Degree. It's called Degree because when you speak about sustainability, you really need to take a 360-degree perspective, considering all stakeholders. Each letter in Degree stands for one of the areas that we believe matter most. With Degree, we are setting ourselves new ambitious targets that are transparent and measurable, and with that we are underlying once again our commitment to sustainable action. Let me start with D, as in decarbonization, maybe the biggest challenge that we are all together facing today. On our path on science-based targets, technologies are supporting us. Solutions like our digital twin help create transparency on the carbon footprint and also on the resource needs along the value chain, and then we can optimize that, also together with our suppliers. The E, as in ethics, which includes more than the obligation to regularly train people in values and ethical standards. Ethics is closely related to trust. And of course, this holds also true for the digital world. And that is why we founded the Charter of Trust initiative to drive cybersecurity in a digital world with cross-industry and global partners. The G, as in governance, where it's about how we integrate effective incentives for strong corporate governance and responsible business practices, and how we ensure that working with our 63,000 suppliers worldwide is ESG compliant. The R, as in resource efficiency. Here we want to develop more strongly towards a circular economy and drive the dematerialization in production. This includes, in our case, to significantly increase the purchase of secondary materials for metals and plastics, and making our products as environmentally friendly as possible right from the start. Also with the help of digital twins. And of course, we can also use this technology to help our customers on their journey to save resources. For example, the machinery manufacturer TrackWrap in the UK used our digital twin technology to implement a new packaging technology with impressive results. Energy consumption went down by 90%, and 70% less plastic is used in the whole process. This really shows what we can already today achieve with our digital solutions. The E, as in equity. Many people first associated more with the financial world. We understand equity in the way of equal treatment, participation, and respect. It really means that we want to have a feeling of belonging for our people. We want to promote a culture that empowers and encourages people to develop. And the basis for this is that you can come to work every morning exactly the way you are. Last but not least, the E, as in employability. In our world that keeps changing at that speed, it's important to strengthen our people to be resilient and to stay relevant. With training and further education, with digital learning opportunities, we invest into our people to help them do so. Last year, we invested about 320 million euros in vocational education, training, and lifelong learning, and we are offering more than 100,000 digital learning opportunities in-house. In addition, we've sponsored around 1 million PLM software licenses for universities. Overall, We want to promote the awareness of the importance of lifelong learning and enable people to better cope with change and ultimately grow beyond themselves. Our priorities at Siemens are set: to accelerate the sustainability efforts and to really make lasting impact. Sustainability needs to be part of our everyday mindset, of all of us. A better future for all of us will become reality through the actions, contributions, and commitments that we do jointly. Our customers, investors, our people, the societies we do business in, and our kids and grandkids expect that from us. The motivation for it can hardly be greater. What's good for our business and what's good for people and our planet go hand in hand. Thank you very much.
Very inspiring, and it was extremely interesting to hear the degree framework. So thank you, Ms. Jenny Boffinger-Schuster, for showing us the great potential of technologies that can help us in accelerating the transition to a more sustainable world, and the effort that Siemens is putting in this area. Now we shall move to one on the case study about Port of Tanjung Pelepas, PTP, sustainable ports with digital technologies. The case study is on the use of smart technology and innovative systems to further enhance the port infrastructure and performance. This presentation will be delivered by Nilesh Timbadia. Nilesh is the head of Information Technology Divisions at PTP, with more than 30 years of experience in IT. He has served various industries ranging from the energy sector, manufacturing and supply chain, as well as the government sector. Recently, he has led his team to develop and roll out a complete suite of enterprise resource planning ERP system that covers finance, supply chain, engineering, and human resources modules. The focus of PTP in the coming years will be on various digital accelerators to continue to be Malaysia's most advanced container terminal. This includes the area of data analytics, mobility applications, smart technology, and Internet of Things. Nilesh, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto. Let me just share my slides. Thank you for the introduction. I am honored to be part of this discussion here today. PTP is a joint venture between MMC Corporation Berhad and APM Terminals, which is a leading global port network in 74 countries. PTP has 3 core businesses, which are container services, marine services, and free zone. We are currently operating in 14 berths, totaling 5.04 kilometers with state-of-the-art facilities, equipment, and systems. Marine services such as pilotage, towing, ship-to-ship services provided for all vessels. And our free zone consists of 1,600 acres of land with 40 companies that employ more than 11,000 employees. PTP itself has handled 130 million TEUs since inception, 9.8 million last year, and we are on target for 11 million TEUs this year. We have moved from 18th to 15th in the world ranking, which is one of the largest growth in the world. In today's environment, we can see radical changes in the business space for port operations, increasingly intense global competition as well as sustainability will force changes in the way all players in the international logistics chain, including ports, conduct business in the future. Innovative systems and new technology will radically change requirements for port infrastructure and increase the degree of specialization, raising the financial stakes of port investment and the need for highly specialized workforce. Realignments and consolidations among port users and port service providers will continue, creating a fluid base of players with whom ports do business. PTP's focus on ESG, environmental, social, and governance remains steadfast, and we have already started on that journey. PTP is also embarking into digital transformation journey, beginning with digitization to digitalization and digital transformation, in which integrating digital technology into all areas of PTP business, resulting in fundamental changes to how business operate and how they deliver value to our customers. Beyond that, it's a cultural change that requires organizations to continually challenge the status quo, experiment often, and get comfortable with progressive improvement, which means we are fixing the past, focusing on the present, and creating a new future. To be successful in our digital transformation journey, we need a strategy, and our strategy is on product and service innovation. We're looking at innovation to implement new ideas and create value for PTP, as well as market trends and new digital growth. Digital market trends are key changes in strategic direction of the digital marketing landscape, including evolution of marketing techniques, consumer sentiments, and underlying technologies. Big data analytics is a big focus for PTP in the coming years. As data grows in complexity and even the traffic in ports grow over the years, big data is using new technology and enormous amount of different types of data to analyze and make decisions quickly. Sustainability is an ingredient for digital transformation, focusing on smarter, greener PTP digital accelerators. As the expectations of corporate responsibility increases and as transparency becomes more prevalent, PTP is recognizing the need to act on sustainability. For PTP, sustainability means creating a long-term value by taking consideration on how PTP operates in the ecological, social, and economic environment. The sustainability is being built on the assumption that developing strategies should foster PTP's longevity. Sustainability is also much more than technology and operations domain. It goes beyond structurally transforming IT in terms of consumption habits and ways of working to embrace the whole culture of sustainable IT and getting employees to champion this transformation. The journey and approach should focus on sustainable IT strategy, sustainable IT transformation, even sustainable of IT employees, and IT for sustainable business. Technology in ports, as I said, is always evolving, and the shipping industry is ideal for new evolution of technology and disruption. A new grow and we become smart and digital is happening with the demands of efficient ports. In PTP, our aim is to remain competitive in this fast-paced landscape. Equipment automation and digitization has become key focus area for us to stay ahead. PTP is using technologies to optimize and transform the current services at ports into interactive systems. The purpose is to meet the needs of port users with greater level of efficiency, transparency, and value. For instance, our terminal operating system with real-time performance monitoring has been integrated and to improve efficiency, increase berth productivity, and reduce operating costs. Each of these systems gives PTP visibility of its live operations performance and all of its assets. With regards to digital processes, PTP successfully migrated to TORS in 2019 and have upgraded in 2021. Mobile apps have also taken their place in a number of different PTP operations. And the IoT, we have started our implementation of IoTs on our assets. and IoT is becoming essential for connecting physical devices which are used to build a network that communicates large amounts of data. Big data has become essential requirement for PTP looking to harness our business potential. Many companies today, large and small businesses, enjoy greater profitability and competitive edge through capture management, analysis of vast volumes of either structured or unstructured data. PTP has realized the needs of modern data architecture for going to the next level. Data lakes will ingest large volumes, variety and velocity of data, stage them and catalog them centrally. Data is then made available through various analytics and applications. A data lake also excels at utilizing the availability of large quantities of coherent data along with deep learning algorithms. It helps decision-making in real-time analytics. Cybersecurity as technology advances remains one of the most critical things, and people are usually the weakest elements when it comes to cybersecurity. So our focus is on the people, on the process, as well as on the technology of cybersecurity as we move to modern devices. As mentioned earlier, we've recently incorporated a new enterprise resource planning system that makes use of a central database that receives information from various departments within the company. The ERP includes integrated modules dedicated to function of human capital management, finance, supply chain, engineering, project integration, and reform modules. We also are looking at modern SCADA systems to help us with smart electrical SCADA, digitize our fire protection system, our sewage treatment plant, as well as building automation through central air conditioning system and SCADA water distribution network system. Asset digitalization focus on our fleet of operations, which are QC and RTG cranes, our prime movers, and our electrical handlers. And it might be tasked with responsibility that include vehicle maintenance, overseeing fuel consumption and fuel costs, driver management, asset utilization, route planning, and implementation of any programs that increase productivity and reduce our carbon footprint. Autonomous prime mover, electrical prime mover, and hybrid or hydrogen prime movers are things that we are looking at in the coming year to see if we can go to a greener prime mover moving forward. This is my last slide. I just wanted to say, as demand for products continues to increase around the world, environmental factors like climate change increasingly affects policies and thus business. It becomes more and more of a competitive advantage for businesses to consider sustainability aspects early in product development process. Studies show that port equipment generally only accounts for 2.5% of carbon emissions in comparison to ships at berth. That does not mean PTP will greenwash and not focus on our equipment, but we have to be pragmatic in our approach and also not green wishing. PTP is progressively focusing on product development and product design, which will focus on the prevention of waste and minimize environmental impact. Products and service implemented are conveying the message that PTP is working on sustainability continuously. We as humans are co-participants in the ecosystem. This requires us acknowledging that our relationship is not simply with nature, but within nature, and to work on understanding, honoring, and developing the relationship with ecosystems, including ecosystems, is very important. When we do not honor these relationships, our actions will come back and bite us. For example, studies have consistently shown that deforestation makes pandemics and infectious diseases more likely and frequent. In 2022, PTP is looking towards uniting IoT and sustainability, in which we aim to look at ways to make amends and reduce carbon impact, especially by deploying energy management system using IoT platforms and integrating trends. IoT facilitates typical tasks such as automated maintenance and reporting, data collection, analytics, optimizing smart grids. But it is also an established presence when it comes to smart equipment devices for air conditions and lighting. IoT sensors reduce energy consumption, generate renewable energy on site, and measure carbon consumption plus waste. We also are at the moment using electrical rubber-tired gantry trains and have phased off all of our diesel cranes for RTGs. We also have had a few energy-saving initiatives, which includes changing all our lights, our incandescent lighting to LED lighting. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at SCADA systems to analyze our energy usage and make our energy usage more efficient. Lastly, a sustainable fleet management or asset digitalization mentioned earlier aims to reduce environmental impacts through actions such as more sustainable vehicles and fuels, operating with the least possible fuel consumption, and reducing the amount of equipment generated by our fleet. 3 best practices for sustainable asset digitalization to implement in PTP fleets are properly scale our PTP fleet, reduce travel distance mileage, and increase fuel efficiency. By combining these practices with implementation of asset digitalization and data analytics, PTP is progressively enjoying the most significant benefits possible. Thank you for allowing me to present today. That's all that I have.
Amazing to see how you have used the technology in different areas around the board. And also it was very interesting to see what your priorities are in terms of sustainability. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nilesh, for the informative coverage on the digital technologies for sustainable ports. We'll go back to a short Q&A session at the end of the next presentation, but let me just introduce the next speaker. Next, we will take a look at a case study from India. This project is called RE-Mobility. I'm very excited actually to bring this project, this presentation to you today. RE-Mobility has demonstrated the effectiveness of industry coalitions in transforming the urban mobility landscape in India. WBCSD, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and its global network partners are looking at opportunities for replicating this project in other countries, in other jurisdictions. We're delighted to have Mr. Apurva Appan, Senior Associate in the field of mobility at the World Business Council, to share with us his experience. Apurva's role is to facilitate a multi-stakeholder group of over 60 organizations. I don't know exactly what is the latest count, but Apurva will definitely tell us. Last time I heard it was 60 organizations from the India EV ecosystem, aimed at accelerating business-led adoption of EV electric vehicles in India. Prior to joining WBCSD, he has had stints in electric vehicles, energy efficiency, and power market consulting and business development roles for Indian and North American markets. Is also rendered advisory and strategic management services to various businesses, government, and multilateral organizations, and is also the co-author of India's Energy Efficiency National Strategy document, released by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEA. So without further ado, Apurva, I hope you're there. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Roberto, for the kind introduction, and really excited to be a part of this session among these eminent speakers. Good afternoon, everyone. So Roberto raised a really important question earlier in the session, which was on can technology help sustainability? So I'm here to talk about one of the really or most talked about technological transitions, that is electric vehicles, and how the power of coalitions has helped scale that particular technology in India. So let me pull up the slides. All right. So as I mentioned, I'm here to talk about electric vehicles. And electric vehicles is going to be one of the biggest technological transitions that our generation is going to witness in this decade. Before I do that, let me give you a quick word about who we are. So the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, that is WBCSD, is a CEO-led organization of the world's 200 leading sustainable businesses. There are multiple program areas that we work on, and mobility is one of them. So I represent the mobility team based in India, and we facilitate a business coalition of 50 plus companies from the electric vehicle mobility ecosystem in India. The objective of our coalition is to accelerate business-led or fleet-led adoption of electric vehicles in India. And these are the companies who represents our coalition, which in total represents an annual mobility demand of 10 billion annual kilometers. So these include manufacturers from two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, buses, and trucks, charging companies like Fortum Exicom, battery companies, corporate customers like IKEA, Flipkart, Walmart, others, as well as fleet operators like Uber, Ola, and similar other companies. So we've been running this coalition, which is called as Remobility, since 3 years. And it's a really exciting case study that Roberto invited us for. So we've been running this for 3 years. So the idea behind this, or the context or the theory of change behind this, was India is home to 22 of the world's 30 most polluted cities. And while India needs to fix multiple levers on urban emissions, vehicular emissions is one of the most urgent ones. At the same time, the vehicle ownership in India is currently really low, which means that out of every 1,000 people owning a car in India, out of every 1,000 people, only 30 owns a car in India. And this vehicle ownership is significantly low when compared to European, American, or Malaysian markets, where this ratio is around 300 to 800. The economy is developing in India, and so will be the vehicle procurement. And we expect that much of the vehicle procurement that India will do is going to happen in this decade, which is from 2020s to 2030s. So our theory of change is to say that if the transition to electric vehicles in India is not fast enough, it would mean tens of millions of more ICE or fossil fuel vehicles plying on the Indian roads for their vehicle lifetime, which could be 10 to 15 more years. So while the Indian government has taken a lot of steps in that direction, we do have an electric vehicle policy in India. And there is a consensus that's shaping up within various ministries, the Ministry of Power, the Ministry of Industries, Ministry of Housing Affairs, on electric vehicles. We believe that businesses are the implementers of any vision, which is the private sector, which is the businesses that are working in this direction. So we identified companies, willing companies who were having the same vision as we had for this group. And some of them were WBCSD members, some of them were outside of WBCSD members as well. The next step for us was to identify the barriers or the hindrances that were causing hindrances to the uptake of electric vehicles in India. And we identified the upfront purchase cost was the most important one, which means that an electric vehicle costs more than a ICE counterpart, which could be petrol, diesel vehicles. At the same time, we also identified that electric vehicles already enjoys an economical advantage over their ICE counterparts. And that is the operational cost, which is the running cost, also known as the fuel cost, as well as the maintenance cost, which means the more you run an electric vehicle, the more economical it becomes in comparison to an ICE vehicle. So we identified 3 most prioritized high utilization use cases that could support adoption in this sector. And these three use cases were ride hailing, companies like Uber, deliveries, companies like Walmart, IKEA, as well as employee transport, companies like Wipro, Accenture, Google, Microsoft, using electric vehicles for their employee transport services that they offer to their employees. So these were the low-hanging fruits that involves or influences businesses. And we got all of these businesses to come on the same platform, to come together, collaborate, share knowledge, advocate for the right policies, raise ambition within the group itself, and most importantly, lead through their own actions. And the ultimate objective of this group is for us to deliver 1 billion kilometers of electrified mobility demand through the action of our own members by 2022. So this has been the vision or the theory of change with which we started the coalition. And over the past 3 years, we've become the leading business voice on electric vehicles in India. And there are multiple areas through which we support electric vehicle adoption. As I mentioned, through knowledge sharing, policy advocacy, thought leadership, amplifying ambition, also pioneering some of the pilot projects, working with the cities. So I'll give you some of the examples of how we've been able to create impact into the sector through these businesses. So the first one being the knowledge sharing and the thought leadership in this space. So while there are companies investing into this sector, we believe that instead of companies acting in silos, I think it will be a great thing if we can create a platform where the companies can come together, share knowledge, contribute to the platform, as well as learn from the platform. So we created this India Business Guide to EV Adoption that is basically a ready reckoner for businesses looking to adopt EVs in these three prioritized use cases, which is deliveries, ride hailing, as well as employee transport. And this has primarily been created for the businesses by the businesses. So close to 30 businesses created this document, and this document was launched at COP25 in 2019. And this has been, as I mentioned, has been a ready reckoner for many of the businesses in India. Similarly, we've created a sector roadmap for the airports sector, land transport in India. And similarly, we've created a sector roadmap for the e-commerce industry in India, together with the climate group. Coming to the policies. So as I mentioned, there is a good amount of consensus that's shaping up within the ministries. There is a policy that do exist in India on electric vehicle uptake, where the government has announced close to 10,000 crore of Indian rupee of incentives for customers purchasing electric vehicles, as well as for CPOs or the charging service providers deploying charging infrastructure in India. The government of India reached out to us to suggest policy recommendations on behalf of these 50-60 companies who are our members. And we came up with this report, which is policies for India's global leadership on EV adoption. And we gave them 18 specific policy asks on EV uptakes. And again, this was created by 30 plus companies from the ecosystem. These are the list of participating businesses who were a part of this coalition. And this was handed out to the government of India. And I'll come to how this report was not just a report, but it eventually came on to influence the policy decision-making at the national as the subnational government levels in India. After knowledge sharing and policy advocacy, the third step for us is to demonstrate viable all-electric operations in India, as well as support companies do pilots with the cities. So we did a pilot with a company called BlueSmart, which is an all-electric ride-hailing company in India, and it operates close to 500 electric cars in the area of New Delhi, as well as the Delhi National Capital Region area. We are expecting a report which documents a journey of a company called Flipkart, which is a subsidiary of Walmart in India. It's the biggest e-commerce marketplace in India, and it is looking to electrify all of its vehicle fleet to electric by 2030. So WBCSD Coalition, which is these member companies, are supporting this company, Flipkart, to put together a roadmap for them to transition to all electric in the next 8 years. Similarly, a company, Mindspace, which is business parks, they are looking to deploy electric vehicle chargers across all of their properties in India. So we've created a roadmap for them as well in collaboration with our partners in India, which is the Climate Group. And the fourth key important thing is raise ambition on electric vehicles. So globally, there are close to 20 countries who've announced 100% transition to electric vehicles or 100% phase out of ICE vehicles by a certain timeline. India currently does not have a national target. And I think a national target, or we believe as a group that a national target would give a lot of clarity to the businesses who are investing into this sector, and it will help galvanize all of the investments into this sector and provide a lot of clarity and confidence to all the investors as well as businesses. So together with these companies, we put together a national electric vehicle ambition that asks the government of India to convert 65% of the new vehicle sales to be electric by 2030. So 65% new vehicle sales to be electric by 2030 is the ask that we shared. And this was a CEO signed ambition statement that we released at COP26 last month. And we would have liked the Indian government to support this call or to take this ambition and announce it as well. But we'll continue to work in that direction, and hopefully we'll have a national target in the coming years or so. But again, this has been a big achievement by us, which is to bring together all of the companies, the manufacturers, companies like Bridgestone, Shell, companies like Adani, which is a very big company in India, Mindspace, LeasePlan. So all of these companies coming together, asking the Indian government to announce a national ambition, also suggesting what the ambition could look like. So again, this was a big achievement for the group. And so these are the areas that we've worked on. Now, the most important question is, okay, you've worked on policy advocacy, you've worked with the government, you've worked on knowledge sharing, you've helped raise ambition across the ecosystem, but have you been able to create impact in these 3 years? So the first example is on commercial fleet adoption, which is the 3 prioritized use cases. So out of the 10 billion kilometers of mobility demand that our group represents, 250 million has already been electrified through their own actions, which in terms of percentage is 2.5%. Our ambition is of 1 billion by in the next 2 years. In terms of policy, as I mentioned, we suggested 18 specific policy recommendations to the Indian government, and 4 of them since July 2021 has already been implemented by the Ministry of Power, by the Department of Heavy Industries, and by the Ministry of Road Transport. On finance, so the State Bank of India, which is India's largest bank, wanted to come up with a finance product offering for electric vehicle buyers. And we collaborated with them. We organized multiple workshops. We brought together the coalition. And finally, the State Bank of India came back, announced a green car loan for EV buyers in India. Similarly, we supported IKEA to create a roadmap for 100% electrification of their fleets in India. And we supported Shell to evaluate and also to deploy electric buses for their employee transport operations in the city of Bangalore. So this has been the impact that this coalition has been able to achieve over the years. And finally, I'd like to say that electric vehicles are solutions to the problem that we are facing today. It is not a solution to the problem that we'll face in the next 5-10 years. And we believe that businesses are the implementers of this vision. Businesses are taking steps in this direction. And while businesses are acting individually in silos, we believe that such a platform for any geography, for India or for Malaysia, could help galvanize investments into this sector a lot much. And we believe that no one single policy decision or business model or one stakeholder can bring together this change. It is going to be one of the biggest technological transitions. So it will need extensive collaboration between the policymakers and between the businesses. So I think such a coalition would definitely help galvanize investments across any geography. So with that, I'd like to conclude this session, and thank you, Roberto, again for inviting me.
Thank you, Apurva. And I think I want to stay with you because we are a little bit behind schedule, but we still have 1 or 2 minutes. I want to, since you, I loved your presentation, and I also like the fact that the impact of what you guys are doing in India is showing, and it's showing big time. So give me a very, very quick comment on, should we decide or should we have the opportunity to replicate our e-mobility in Malaysia? Give me a couple of hints of the lessons learned that we could, benefit from in reapplying the same model, for example, in Malaysia. Just a couple of pointers that, you found very difficult to overcome, but it would facilitate our job should we have this opportunity here.
Sure. So I'll try to keep it brief. So I think the key point here is Malaysia or any geography can't turn a blind eye to a technology that's evolving so fast. And similar has been the situation with India. We've seen how electric vehicles in countries like Norway has moved from 15% electric to more than 85% electric in just a span of 8 years. So that's how quickly the technological tide has turned. And we've seen, as I mentioned during my presentation, the power of coalition, how businesses coming together on a platform helps. So I think if you had to replicate a similar coalition for Malaysia, the key steps and the 3 key pointers would be, first, to identify businesses who are willing to contribute to this. So identify like-minded people. So as we mentioned, Remobility is basically a coalition of the willing. Second is to finalize a key objective. So decide whether it's going to be energy efficient vehicles or battery electric vehicles. So the Malaysia electric vehicle policy says energy efficient vehicles, which includes hybrids and others as well. So the objective should be clear. And the third point should be to finalize the fundraising, which is how is this coalition going to be supported, whether the money is coming from funders, philanthropies, or from the businesses.
Which you got some donors in India to fund the effort at the beginning, but also right now as well, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And Nilesh, I just want to ask you a question related to your presentation. You showed us what are the activities, the sustainability efforts and activities that you are undertaking at BTP. But what business value have you seen, and are you hoping to see linked to your sustainability effort? What are you hoping to see in terms of return from your sustainability activities at BTP?
I think, Roberto, good question. And it has shown that even in companies that are in Dow Jones as well as KLSE, if they do not follow certain sustainability measurements, they actually have an effect on the share market, a bad effect on the share market, as you've seen in Malaysian glove companies recently. They've been accused of quite a number of things. So in PTP, we are putting a great focus on our ESG, not just on the governance part of it, but also on the environmental as well as the socio-cultural part of it. Our employees are very important to us. Welfare of our employees and the workplace safety, especially through the pandemic, PTP has been running 24/7. Our numbers are high, but pandemic has been going on, and it's been very important that our worker safety is important for us. Apart from that, we focus on, of course, we have to be economically sustainable before we can be environmentally sustainable. So we also focus on our integrated reporting for corporate governance and things like that, basically. Yeah.
Excellent. Gentlemen, unfortunately, we need to move on with the next section of the event. Thank you very much. It was very, very, very insightful. Thank you for this great, but unfortunately short Q&A exchange. I know that we have received a few more questions. We'll try to see if we can answer them towards the end. But sorry, we're a little bit pushed for time. We need to move on. So yeah, we're moving to the second part of the program. Now we will be having a very interesting, we call it a fireside chat session We're very honored to have with us today the President and CEO of Siemens Malaysia, Mr. Adam Yee. Welcome, Adam. Nice to
Hello.
be. Nice to be.
Hi, Roberto. How are you doing? I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Nice to be with you today, and thank you very much for joining us. Let me just give a quick introduction about you and about your bio information. So in the next 20 minutes, we will be talking about technology and sustainability. Some of you may have heard some new buzzwords like digitalization or sustain tech. They have to do with technology, digitalization, and sustainability. As finance is being mobilized for green and sustainable projects, it's important to channel investments in technologies that can create economic development, job opportunities, but at the same time advance the sustainability agenda, as we heard actually from the presentation from Ms. Jenny at the beginning of this event. For example, by facilitating the transition from a carbon-intensive sectors to zero greenhouse gas emissions. As I just mentioned, Adam is the President and CEO of Siemens Malaysia and is also the head of digital industries in Malaysia. Adam oversees market strategy and business development and ensures that Siemens plays a prominent role in supporting nation-building projects here in Malaysia. Adam is also spearheading the launch of 2 new Siemens competency centers to help industries and SMEs embrace Industry 4.0 technologies, provide technical support in automation and digitalization, and equip education and various industry sectors with the Industry 4.0 training. This year, by the way, amongst other things, Adam has been conferred the top 50 Lifetime Achievement Awards Business Excellence Award by KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. So let's move to a couple of questions. WBCSD and BCSD also Malaysia share a vision. We spoke about this before, called Vision 2050. Which is, again, of a world where over 9 billion people will be able to live well within the planetary boundaries by 2050, by mid-century. And if we are to hit our sustainability and climate change targets, it's critical that technologies are developed and especially scaled and made available around the globe to all countries, developed and developing. Adam, can you give us your view on the role of technology in the context of present and future sustainability challenges? In your view, what technologies have the highest impact potential and how will this impact be delivered? Over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Roberto. I think this is a very interesting and also quite relevant question about sustainability. Our answer to the trend and the challenges of today is digitalization. The process of combining the real world and the digital world to represent the gigantic leap forward for our customer and for their industry and market. Digitalization will help all of us achieve growth and prosperity while using fewer resources. In short, it will help us to build a world which intelligent manufacturing, smart energy system, smart building, and connected mobility will make all our life easier, healthier, and more sustainable. So digitalization is the answer. The way to transform the everyday and create a better tomorrow, and an answer to major issues of our age, such as climate change, globalization, demographic change, and urbanizations. Building this world with our customer, that's what we set out to accomplish. So Siemens brought offering a leading edge technology is designed to enable customers to meet their goal for a sustainable future. The company intelligent, automate, infrastructure system increase efficiency, safety, and environmental benefit. These proven infrastructure solutions are already at work in Malaysia, around the world, increasing the customer level of the competitiveness, reducing environmental footprint, and combating climate change. I can give you a few examples, company core technology that we have done, and we are developing core technology to drive breakthrough innovation in our market. For example, AI, digital twins, 5G, industrial age, hydrogen solution, and charging infrastructure, and a lot more. Yeah? This technology will drive growth in the future. For example, we are already number one in deploying Industry 5G in manufacturing. And in the future, we will bring 5G to infrastructure, transport system, and we also bring edge computing to enabling real-time decision on the shop floor. Already today, we offer market-leading solution and industry edge. We can build on our install base of 45 million automation and drive devices. We know that the demand for the climate-friendly solution will accelerate in the near future. We are developing drivetrain by having the hydrogen locomotive to help our rail customer reduce their carbon footprint. And another attractive growth field, electric vehicle, as many of our speakers mentioned about it. The forecast expect 130 million on the road by 2030. To make this reality, we can provide the charging infrastructure, and that is part of our company focus.
Yeah, the charging infrastructure is essential to move and have this smooth transition. Siemens is a technology company focused on industry, infrastructure, as you mentioned, transport and healthcare. These are the main focus area. For more resource-efficient factories, resilient supply chains, and smarter buildings and grids, to cleaner and more comfortable transportation, as well as advanced healthcare. It seems that Siemens really create technology with purpose, with the potential to transform the everyday life for billions of people. So in this context, can you give us some examples of Siemens solutions, like products or services that leverage these technologies, that use these technologies with the purpose, as we have been saying?
Sure, indeed. What sets Siemens apart is how our technology make a positive impact on society. In Malaysia, we have lots of proven records and story on how we are leading our nation into a more sustainable future through digital transformations. We are fortunate to have been entrusted with key infrastructure projects. For example, we supply and roll out the Siemens Smart Meter Data Management System to a local utility company as part of the government nationwide initiative to enhance sustainability, energy, and energy efficiency adoption among Malaysians. I can give you another second example, we are providing the full turnkey solution for the design, engineering, supply delivery, site installation, testing, and commissioning of a new SCADA system. It's related substation control system infrastructure of cooling high-tech park distribution network. That is actually help the distribution network have more transparency and easy to maintain, to have more predictive maintenance service to be provided in the future. And third one, we're helping the country to improve grid and energy efficiency. Better overview, control, better distribution, as I mentioned, of the transparency and also management, remote monitoring and maintenance, as well as ability to implement pricing and load management program easily. And last but not least, as currently we are focusing a lot on helping and upskill our talent in Malaysia to ensure our labor force stay competitive and relevant. So our expertise in digitalization, factories and manufacturing lines, and that's where we to help Malaysia manufacturing industry to their digital transformation journey. The modernization of Malaysia manufacturing should be a leading priority because it's during this pandemic, the manufacturing industry is a key contribution on our economy. When it comes to upgrading for our Malaysia infrastructure, is also one of the important topics. After all, Malaysia manufacturing might support the capabilities that they are key national resilience, such as mobility, power, and also healthcare. Through all this digitalization, automation, and the intelligent use of data, we drive for industry Internet of Things, enabling industry to first, we manufacture products which are more sustainable. Secondly, make production smarter, thus more resource efficient. And thirdly, ensure greater transparency of our product CO2 footprint across the supply chain. With our digital enterprise portfolio, we are driving for digital enterprise and our digital twin approach. We support our customer in raising the sustainability of product, plant, and processes by saving finite resources through infinitely available data in all vertical and discrete and process industry. So we constantly expand our partnership and ecosystem for decarbonizations and energy efficient in production. So these are the overview on what Siemens do for our solution and product and services.
I mean, you touched already upon many of the important contributions that Siemens could potentially bring to Malaysia. But just in summary, highlight how Siemens technology helps transform the backbone of the economy and provide sustainable solutions for a better future. Just in a summary, how do you think this support to the transformation of the backbone of the economy of Malaysia, for example, is facilitated by Siemens, by the technologies provided by Siemens?
I mean, that is a good question because we help our customer transform their business so that they can change their life for billions of people for the better and for the future. We combine the real and digital worlds with our technologies, with our automation system, with our hardware and software. At Siemens, we are united by our desire to move fast and build things and do more with the fewer resources. So we contribute to climate protection. And for instance, by making industry more efficient and mobility more sustainable, with smart infrastructure and smart building, we are offering solutions for a better life in cities that's growing rapidly around the world. We help businesses and economies to connect better, more intelligently, and more resiliently, so that they can hold their own in the next wave of globalization. And in healthcare, we use digital solutions to diagnose and treat illness faster, more easily, and more affordably. So as we all know, the global economy needs new solutions to grow sustainably. This situation presents our company with major opportunity for sustainable growth. We create the technology that empower our customer to completely transform the industry that form the backbone of our economies. This is what the new Siemens stand for and what holds us together. I hope that I answer your question, Roberto. I think this
definitely. And absolutely, that comes through very, very clearly. One thing that I think it's important to mention, that all these technologies and all this technology revolution require new tech-savvy professionals, a generation of new tech-savvy professionals, individuals that who have high technical skills, but they are not very many, and they are in high demand, and they're being presented with more and more opportunities and greater salaries, greater compensation. So how can industry, government, and the academic sector, for example, work together to overcome this challenge and create the right skills that are needed to move into this so important but so sometimes difficult technologies. And how do we face this big challenge in Malaysia? I would really love to have your insight on this particular topic, Adam.
I think this is a pain point, as I always discuss during our forum discussion on the digital transformation. What is really the main challenge that we are facing, even if we transform or even if we introduce a new technology, if we do not have the resources or we do not have a talent or we do not have a right skill to support the transformation, what does it mean for the transformation? And this will be a big challenge for the future. Yeah? So that's why Siemens have designed and came out a lot of programs to support in this digital transformation, specifically on the upskilling. Yeah? So just recently we signed the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU with State Government of Selangor and the Selangor Technical Skill Development Center, STTC, to develop a comprehensive training center, the training ecosystem for Industry 4.0. Secondly, also in Siemens, we come out the concept, we call it a Siemens Innovation and Resource Training Center. Is actually, we actually cater for this SRTC, this training center, to focus and on equipping the graduate and also the assisting workforce for the IR4 training, such as Siemens Industry Training, C-Train program that we are running. And also for the automation program that we are conducting, upskilling, reskilling, multi-skilling program of the Malaysian workforce to critically prepare graduate employees for IR4. So it is important.
Our graduates responding, Adam, is this happening?
It is happening. It is the international industry standard that we widely accepted, what Siemens trying to introduce, and we partner with the institution, college, and worldwide to train students. I put a lot of effort over this program running for the past 2 years, trying to accelerate, see how we can bridge between the university and the industry. So this is important. Also, we partnered with MIDA recently. We partnered with MIDA for working together with the local university and for the research institute to develop high talent program. This is actually to address the hybrid digital skill and meet the IR4 needs. The project ultimately goal is to develop young leaders in the various industry, equip students with the necessary skill, not only the IR4 skill, but it's also to introduce them with certain leadership skill and soft skill. That will help that the individual not only have the technical skill, but it's also have a moving forward the future skill that is required. Besides that, Siemens also partnering with local university to upskill our talent in Malaysia to ensure our labor force stay relevant. So we partner with MTUN, the Malaysian Technical University Network. We offer a new technical education program. We put our syllabus into their bachelor degree in industry, electronic and automation. Students in this program will learn about Siemens Total Integrated Automation module across different disciplines in the syllabus, which is co-developed by Siemens and the respective university. The aim to prepare these students for the world of system integration and professional certificate from Siemens as a qualified and versatile system integrator. So these are the two areas we look into that. We're trying to build, to upskill our workforce and also the undergraduate and the postgraduate. On the other hand, we bring our syllabus into university so that the student is also learn about the new technology is going to have an impact to our future.
It sounds very interesting, but most importantly, it sounds that it's happening. So I'm very glad to hear these very encouraging pieces of information and updates that you have just given us. Adam, thank you very much. We need to run to the next part of the event today, but thank you for this very enlightening and a very insightful conversation. As always, we hope we have more time, but
Yes.
we need to move on. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Adam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the last segment of this webinar, a panel discussion with our esteemed speakers on sustainable mobility as the key to transformation for low carbon cities. We are delighted to have experts from various sectors to join this panel discussion. First, let me just introduce the panelists. The first panelist today is the town planner Chow Long Wai. He is a senior lecturer of urban design and co-director of the UTM Low Carbon Asia Research Center at University Technology Malaysia. He has taught, researched and practiced town planning for over 20 years, specializing in urban design and land use planning, with a deep passion for promoting and delivering low carbon, sustainable and livable cities. Over the past 10 years, he's actively worked with and helped 14 Malaysian cities and regions to develop and implement low carbon policies and climate action plans using the science to action approach, and has been engaged as expert, consultant, and a think tank member by international agencies to work on city-level climate action planning in Malaysia, but also in Southeast Asia. In our panel today, we also have Mr. Uzaimi Nur Omar, who is the Senior Director of Low Carbon Mobility at MGTC, Malaysian Green Tech Corporation. He has more than 14 years of experience in the automotive field and more than 8 years of experience in electric vehicles, having overseen assignments to expand the charging station infrastructure and improve energy efficiency through increasing demand of electricity from EV charging stations. With Uzaimi, we'll focus on Malaysia low carbon mobility blueprint. We will dive into this important document. Last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Arjun Raju, who is the Regional Sales and Business Development Manager in Asia Pacific for Siemens e-Mobility. Arjun is an accomplished sustainability and EV expert. He has over a decade of experience in e-mobility industry and is now spearheading Siemens' foray into the e-mobility space within Asia Pacific, supporting governments, industries, and corporates to transition to sustainable mobility with the electrification of private and public vehicles through digitalization and technology transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the discussion. Allow me to just do a quick intro. So one of the greatest environmental challenges we face today lies in mobility. We need a seemingly infinite network of transportation systems for society and the economy to function efficiently. However, transportation, as we all know, is a huge contributor to global CO2 emissions. Creating sustainable transportation solutions is one of the greatest challenges facing cities today, but also a great opportunity for low carbon development of cities. Our panel today will discuss about carbon neutral, energy efficient transportation options, which are sustainable on both environmental and at the business level, and ways to enable and mainstream these mobility solutions. So we start with Mr. Chow, town planner, Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow, we understand from you that an effective approach to sustainable low carbon transportation planning follows what you you taught us, and I read some material about that. That is extremely interesting. The ASI framework, which stands for, the acronym stands for Avoid, Shift and Improve. So I would like to start by asking you to elaborate more on these three approaches for sustainable urban transport. the ASI framework. Over to you, Mr. Chow.
Thank you, Roberto. And thank you so much, BC, SD Malaysia, as well as Siemens, for giving me the opportunity to share a bit of what I know and what I'm very passionate about with this audience. So we heard earlier from the various speakers that technology plays a very important role for us to transition into low carbon or perhaps even carbon neutral societies in the future. And transportation, again, as mentioned, mobility is a key sector in this with respect to emission, especially in cities. One way to actually help us to think about how to reduce emissions in the transportation sector, and not only that, how do we make urban mobility more sustainable, is the ASI framework, as mentioned by Roberto earlier. So generally in the original concept of ASI, in talking about avoid, we basically talk about how we can help to reduce trip making as well as trip distances in cities. And actually, the original ASI conception focused more on the demand side, if you like, and the end-use sector, behavioral change, and so on. So how do we get people to perhaps reduce trip making, reduce and help them to reduce trip distances? And when it comes to shifting, for those trips that need to be made, are we able to actually shift to less energy intensive and less environmentally polluting modes in that sense? And after that, even after shifting into more efficient modes, cleaner modes, and so on, do we have further opportunity then to improve in terms of the vehicle efficiency as well as fuel efficiency for the modes that we use? So, I mean, on the whole, just very briefly going through this A, S, and I approach or framework, if you like, we notice the potential of the use of technology, in particular in relation to shifting as well as improving. But I would like to go a bit further by saying that technology may play also a very important role in avoiding. That's the original conception of what ASI is. Now, as a town planner and urban designer, I would like to expand the concept a little bit further in understanding how actually people move in cities. On the whole, if I may, just a little bit of background by saying that mobility is the basis for living, actually. We move around. And in fact, from the very moment we were born, of course, human beings, we can't move around on our own. We were carried around. We needed to do this. Even, historically, when we are looking for food, looking for shelter, safety, and so on. And moving around physically, especially, makes us healthy. You could talk about bodily being healthy, mentally being healthy, as well as socially being healthy, because we are in constant co-presence with other people in the city. Now, in that sense, if we can agree in a way that given that we need to move and movement and traveling in the city are not avoidable, then the key questions now with respect to sustainable mobility shifts towards how do we move? Are we able to move in the city in a way that will lessen our environmental load or impact on the environment? And with that as well, from the perspective of a town planner, looking at cities, we would like to shift also the ASI framework, probably from a more demand side approach to what I may call the supply side approach, looking at the city in a way, if we may even conceive the city as a super technology, in that it is human creation and it's a collection of various types of technologies within the city. And if we can look at city like that way, then the question becomes for A, how can cities, a technology by itself, although we do not frequently deem city as such, how can city then enable and encourage more active mobility by way of encouraging walking and cycling, and therefore avoiding motorized mobility? Now, it is obvious that we are not able to completely avoid motorized vehicles because cities have grown to become so big there are many destinations that are beyond comfortable walking and cycling distance, and which means that motorized vehicles will come into play. And it is in this context that technology will play a very important role. So next, we move on quickly to shift. For those trips, movements or travels that are not avoidable and that need to use motorized transport, how do we shift to less energy intensive and cleaner fuel modes? Again, obviously, technology will play a very important role here. And we talk in particular with respect to electrification, perhaps, or even hydrogen fuel, as mentioned by one of our speakers earlier. And public transport will obviously play a very important role here, especially electrified public transports. And finally, we move back to I. For all those cleaner public transport, cleaner private modes of travel, for example, electric cars and so on, that are unavoidable, how do we look for opportunities to further improve the mode's efficiency and reduce the mode's impact on the environment? And I hope, but I do not want to deprive the other speakers of too much time. So let me end my first intervention here by perhaps giving us a glimpse of what I think or what I envision sustainable cities to be like with respect to mobility. And I think that cities need to be compact, meaning that they combine higher density development, especially integrated mixed use in land use pattern. Importantly, they need to be designed to be human scale, and this needs to be embedded within the larger scale of the city, as big as it may grow, city regions and so on. And in particular, with respect to this, we see that high quality public realm, as well as a people-centric approach to city planning and urban design will become very, very important. What I just mentioned are actually not new. They are not rocket science. So a key question then arises in my view: why are our cities diverging farther and farther apart from the vision that I just alluded to earlier? And perhaps time permitting later, I hope there will be time, and I wish to come back to this probably later. So thank you very much, Roberto. I hope that is clear enough.
But we have to keep this in mind, because this is a very interesting question. Actually, let me just take this opportunity to ask you to answer this question in a brief, in a nutshell right now, because I think it's also important for our discussion moving forward. Tell me why this is not happening at the speed and magnitude that you guys are hoping for.
Thank you, Roberto. This is probably a very complex question, as since, I mean, the progression towards sustainable cities actually involve a lot of stakeholders. I mean, a lot of players and actors are involved. I mean, you mentioned earlier as well about government institutions, businesses definitely come into play. The people themselves, the communities, the NGOs, and so on. And we academicians, of course, also play a very important role. So on the whole, if I may just, I mean, in a rather general sense, I think that there needs to be more communication, integration of knowledge, as well as the understanding, among all the stakeholders in how we can all come together and understand the cities more, especially with respect to how people actually move in the city. And I focus on how people move in the city. I mean, the theme for this afternoon discussion is about sustainable mobility. So specifically with respect to how we move in the city, I humbly feel that we actually do not have a very good understanding of how this happened. How, for example, does the physical city, in the way of the street network structure, in the way how we actually distribute land uses in the city, how this impact directly on the way people move, the choices that people make with respect to the modes of transport and so on. So this is one very key aspect, because if the city has been planned, designed, and built in a rather unsustainable way, in that it will enable, it kinds of becomes an inertia. It will continue functioning to be, for example, car-oriented instead of encouraging more active mobility or the use of public transport. So you will see that the city is such a complex object, if you like. Infrastructure, transportation, land uses, buildings themselves can be divided into commercial, residential, industrial sectors, and so on. So on the whole, everyone plays a role. And it is important that all these different stakeholders and parties take interest, take this to their heart. And then we need to sit down really to discuss how to make this happen.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is extremely interesting, and the role of urban planning, city planning, plays a key role on the mobility and the mobility strategies of the mobility performance, I would say, of a city. The next question is for Arjun. We have learned from Mr. Chow that urban design could enable technology. Now it's time to hear from the service provider's perspective. Arjun, I would like to ask you if you could share with us some of how Siemens is actually supporting the industry transition to low carbon mobility, and what areas would Siemens focus on this journey of decarbonizing mobility, especially in the Malaysian context.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, I think Mr. Chow put it very eloquently in terms of the attitude that a city should ideally have, right? So, from Siemens, when we look at low carbon mobility, basically there are many ways to achieve this. You can go hydrogen way, you can go the fuel cell way, electromobility is another option. You also have a combination of other mixed low carbon fuels as well. But when we put these sciences to the test of scalability at a global level, in order to transition, that's where electromobility stands out as one of the best options that the industry has today. Now, when we talk about electromobility in a holistic sense, essentially what we look at is the well-to-wheel approach in terms of carbon emissions. In the sense, the footprint from the point of generation all the way to the point of consumption is an important aspect to kind of consider. And this is where, in my view, Siemens as a technology provider has an impactful role to play in every leg of this journey, in fact. So starting from renewable energy generation, going to distribution, to in fact the manufacturing sites where the cars are made, the batteries are made, all the way up until the societies where our offices are there, the business parks are there, commercial malls, single and multiple home users. Now, if I kind of zoom in to the last leg, which involves the infrastructure end use, right? So what we do at Siemens is we basically walk with the customer in their journey towards going electrification, or rather going electrifying their requirements. So we start from all the way from grid planning to doing the demand modeling, to understanding what is the right hardware, the right software that is to be used, and in fact even providing options in terms of operating modules and business models. We even go to the extent of in certain cases helping them in this transition and providing them innovative leasing as well as funding options as well to help them transition. So this is in a very nutshell putting what exactly we do at Siemens.
Ideally, it would be nice, Arjun, to have the luxury to plan cities with ample time and have this infrastructure already in place. Sure. But we are in a situation where we have to retrofit a lot of this infrastructure and technology in existing towns, which we have heard from Mr. Chow are not often ideal. So is that a problem? Do you see that as an obstacle to, getting, for example, charging infrastructure in place for adoption of electric vehicles?
Not really. So this is where we feel the addition or the role of digitalization is very critical. So there are two ways to look at it in a very simplistic sense to put at it. If we have to get a charging station at a point, we can go two ways. One is to go the larger grid upgrade, which means you will have to invest on running the cables. You'll have to invest on the power electronics getting upgraded, switching transformers and so on. Or you also have the option of using certain softwares which are able to dynamically manage power requirements and therefore able to meet both ends in terms of meeting the objectives of having your cars charged within the ambit of the power available at that particular space in society. So again, from Siemens' perspective, we have solutions like the EVC3, which is now called as Zfinity. It's a very advanced software which can talk to any kind of, it's a software that is agnostic irrespective of what kind of chargers are there. So many different brands or kinds of chargers can sit on this software that talks on a protocol of OCPP. And using this software, we can do various different functionalities in terms of dynamic load management, smart charging, start, stop, delay. So based on the requirement of charging and keeping in mind the available grid power that is at that point of site. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, let's move to Mr. Uzaimi, and let's talk a little bit about policy, which is a very important enabler to any kind of big transformation. The Cabinet of Malaysia recently has given final approval to what's called the Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint, which contains 4 main focus areas that look at greenhouse gas emission reductions from the point of view of 1, fuel economy and emissions improvements. 2 is electric vehicle adoption. 3 is alternate fuel adoption, so different type of fuels to be adopted. And 4th, transport modality shift, for example, from private to public, or the adoption of micro-mobility, or, for example, focus on two-wheelers. So the first question to Mr. Uzaimi is the following. Can you give us an overview of this low-carbon mobility blueprint and what you believe are the main points of the document, and where are the biggest opportunities to decarbonize the transport sector in Malaysia with this blueprint? Over to you, Mr. Uzaimi.
Thank you, Mr. Roberto. This is quite fresh in terms of the approval from the Cabinet. We have been working on this document for quite some time.
We've lost you. Let's see if we can get you back. I think you're back now. Do you hear me, Uzaimi?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Let's try again.
So the blueprint itself is addressing on the land transport sector. So previously, as what we analyzed, there were no actually dedicated guide or pathway for the carbon emission. How do we address the carbon emission? And we found that the low carbon mobility blueprint is looking into this sector. So we are very much in line with the ASI framework. So I'm very happy to see to hear from Town Planner Mr. Chow on the ASI framework. So I don't have to really explain on that part. So basically, the first focus area that we are looking at is as a whole, as an overall perspective for the land transport sector, where the emphasis is to include the carbon emission as the requirement or as part of the regulatory control. So this is actually to give a bit of like a push-pull factor in terms of like pushing for the better technology adoptions with regard to the choices that we have. So on this first focus area, as you mentioned earlier, the reducing the GHG emission, improving the energy efficiency of the vehicles, we're looking at from the new registration up to the end of life of the vehicles. So this is part of the differences of this blueprint. They address this rather holistically. So in the end of life vehicles, there also element of circular economy that is being addressed as well within this blueprint. So of course, shifting to cleaner transport is also a key element, a key pathway for this blueprint. And here, as what Mr. Arjun also saying, the electrification is one of the, say, the dominant technology of choice of today. And we are also looking into this area. In fact, the second focus area is solely focusing on this segment. But we also, at the same time, we're quite mindful about the source of energy that coming for the electrification. In Malaysia, we have pretty much like 3 different grids, Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah, and also Sarawak. So we have like the best grid emission factor in Sarawak, and then, of course, in Peninsular Malaysia, the emission factor is also improving. So along the way, the thoughts is also being put onto how do we put more RE contribution into like energizing the electric vehicles in Malaysia. Of course, in this assessment of the technology and all that, we also reserve or being mindful that we have these fuel cell electric vehicles or hydrogen vehicles also in the considerations. So studies is being done on this separately. In fact, within the blueprint itself, we understood that we need to have a specific roadmap for the fuel for the FCEV, and this is being done as we speak. Mode shift is one of the key things that is very much related to what we are speaking around here, and this is being covered quite extensively in the blueprint. So the shift, the key shift is like shifting to the public transport, which the stats today is actually quite low in relation to our country's advancement or the status of the country. I think we're going towards the developed country, and we should be having much higher public transport share. So the blueprint is targeting for 40% public transport share in all cities in Malaysia by 2030. We're also looking into like a huge opportunity of shifting the freight mode from road to rail, and this is also going to free up a lot of space on the road as well. And our rail freight is very much underutilized today, and we're looking into how do we actually connect the dots through this blueprint. Active mobility, yes, I don't have to speak too much about it since has been elaborated before as well. And I myself is enjoying shifting myself towards the active mobility, especially on the weekend. Yeah, and what we did not cover extensively is something that is also a huge opportunity that came to realization with this COVID is avoidance through digitalizations. So this is another thing that I think we want to take notes. So where we are, MGTC, as the agency under the Ministry of Environment and Water, we are trying to our level best to unlock all this potential and promote for the greater uptakes towards the better choice of the transportations.
There is, thank you very much for this. There is also a chapter, the blueprint deals with the issues of providing EV incentives for the market. Can you give us a brief summary, if you can, on the main features of the incentives that you have put into this important document?
When we formulating the incentive for the EV, especially we also look into like the level of the affordability or the market uptakes in general for passenger vehicles, for instance. Yeah, so what being formulated is very much towards the assessment as well. So we're looking into like shifting the affordability or the options from right to left in terms of the segment. So it's probably going to start on the higher value vehicle segment, and we hope that will help also the lower market segment in the near future. Of course, we are already talking about 2021 today. This is not much time to waste on those. But in terms of that general strategy, it is something along that line. So recently, in our budget speech, quite recently that Ministry of Finance had announced that Malaysia is considering the tax incentive. So we hope that it will be coming in a big way. This is something that we are working on in terms of like the lead incentive for the electrification in Malaysia. And with that, I'm hoping that 2021 will be a good year for the EV, and maybe we can increase our target to be closer to what India is targeting. And
we definitely have to be more ambitious, and probably taking into Malaysia the RE mobility project could be something to consider. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think the business coalitions, forming a big business coalition, could somehow improve the adoption?
Yeah, we've seen now there's a lot of interest coming from various parties. There's a lot of initiative and also proposal that's coming in to go into this EV infrastructure business, and also bring in the models. We are still lacking in terms of like the more affordable segment, which we hope that we can bridge this one soon, probably from technology and product offering coming from China and India. Potentially is one of the two key regions that can provide this segment. Yeah.
In the blueprint, I see there is quite a lot of space dedicated to two-wheelers as well.
Yes, because in the two-wheelers segment, the price difference for the two-wheelers is not that big in relative to the four-wheelers. The issue with the two-wheelers right now is the riding or usage behavior of the local people to the performance of the electric two-wheelers. So there is something that we hope that the technology can reach very soon. And in terms of the charging requirement for the two-wheelers, we are very much looking towards unlocking the battery swapping system for the two-wheelers in Malaysia.
Yeah, I think that would be crucial. Some sort of widely adopted battery swapping system. Okay, let's stop here for a second. We'll come back to you. And next question to Mr. Chow. After listening to speakers on the shift and the improve approaches, Mr. Chow, in your opinion, can technology play a role in supporting sustainable and livable human settlement that facilitates and encourage more local active mobility and support beyond walkability, low carbon transportation modes? What's your view on that?
Yes, indeed. I think technology will play a very important role here. But before getting into that, I think it is probably important to also note that the physical form of cities, in how we design them, this is where urban design comes in and plays a very important role. How do we actually package the land use pattern together, especially locally, so that we have a better mix and integrated kind of relationship among those various related functions in cities that will enable more people to actually live near to where they need to go to. And this is a very fundamental aspect of avoid in the very first place. As I mentioned earlier, technology plays especially very important roles when it comes to shifting and improving. With respect to avoiding, I do sense that there are also opportunities that we can explore. However, the physical city, once we actually build them, they will be in place with us for the next at least 50, 60 years or so. That's by way of our current construction technologies and so on. Some infrastructure may have even longer lifespans. So if we do not do this correctly from the very first place, then we lock ourselves down in a way by way of, high carbon kind of lifestyles or, energy intensive modes of transportation and so on. So if you look at Malaysian cities now, it's very difficult to actually get people to walk or cycle. So there are many reasons behind this. We may not have the time to go into the details of this, but the distance is one very important aspect. In order for people to walk and cycle, the very first thing is that the destination should be within a comfortable, walkable distance. And then safety of the walking environment, convenience and so on, then will kick in. And that is why you see the design of the public realm, the street network, the connectivity, as well as the interconnectedness of different land uses and functions in the city then play a very important role in this. If we get this right from the very beginning, bearing in mind that the city itself, as I mentioned earlier, is also a technology, but we seldom look at it that way. And, therefore, if we do it correctly, correctly inverted commas, then we would have created an enabling, if you like, an encouraging environment for people to willingly, comfortably walk and cycle more. And that already has been very well known to actually generate a lot of co-benefits in terms of health, physical health, as well as mental health, and so on. And therefore, I think that is probably where we should and would like to put more attention into. But having said that, technologies plays important role in S&I is because our cities have become like what they are today, and it cannot change overnight for the very reason which I mentioned as inertia. Once it's there, it's going to continue that way. And in the transition period, especially when we have a chance to rebuild, retrofit, the word that you were using earlier, or redevelop certain areas in the cities, and especially if we have new opportunities to develop new areas in the cities, let's make sure we do it correctly. And in the transition period, therefore, electrification of vehicles, as we still need to drive around, because many destinations are beyond walking and so on. And that is how actually electrification, EVs and so on will help to actually reduce the GHG emissions for all these unavoidable motorized trips, and as well as reducing the pollutants in our air and so on. And hopefully with that as well, helping to create cleaner air and so on for our cities. And the technology with respect to how we can make traffic movement more efficient in cities, I think are also well known by, for example, it could be IoT that was mentioned earlier, sensors, transport demand management, software, and all these things. But the reason why I come into this is, I've mentioned what I mentioned earlier, is I still feel that the fundamental of cities, because cities are at the core of sustainable development, is where sustainable development, climate smartness, if we may call it that way, will play out in the future. In fact, even now. So if we do not get the cities right in the first place in terms of structure, form, and so on, it means that later on, we will have to pour in so much effort to just overcome and to solve this problem that we have.
Mr. Chow, let me interrupt you for a second. Do you have the feeling that when it comes to infrastructure projects for cities, for future cities, for example, the people who have to put the money, the investors or the banks or whatever, are now more preoccupied or more concerned about the ESG or the sustainability impact of this project? Because what I hear is that more and more these projects, these new infrastructure projects, need to satisfy quite stringent ESG requirements. So if that's the case, there is a sign of hope there. What do you think?
I think so. Indeed. We are seeing positive changes bit by bit, and it's heartening to see that the awareness, in ESG, the importance of it is increasing. So it's very good that big corporate sectors are moving into that more and more. I think there is hope in that things will improve as we progress even further. So that is something of a very good sign. And however, let's just remind ourselves that, ESG again is a concept, it's a good framework, but in terms of how it is really played out depends a lot really on how we really go into it. At the end of the day, if it becomes a series of, form ticking kind of procedures, instead of us not really focusing on the substance and so on, and I guess it will again turn out to be like, on paper, how many sectors have fulfilled that and so on. But in reality, it is not really materialized in our cities.
It is definitely, as you described, but there is also an evolution happening right now. And this ESG evaluation, for example, of projects is becoming more stringent and more effective. So as we move along in the coming years, we will see a lot of these regulations coming into play. Thank you very much for this very, very interesting insight. Next question to Arjun. Arjun, what do you see as key challenges in the transition to sustainable urban mobility that need to be overcome from the people's perspective as well as from the business point of view?
Sure. I mean, there are various different challenges, but if I just bucket them into top three ones, especially from the common man's perspective. First one is the awareness. There is still a large segment of population that is not yet abreast with the availability of this technology for mass adoption. So this becomes the first challenge that in a nutshell that the industry has to kind of counter for. The second is in terms of the mindset. Basically, moving to a new technology would in many ways has a behavioral change as well. Rather than going to a petrol station to fill up your gas tank in about 5 minutes to 10 minutes, you're now having to charge your car at a certain regular frequency of time. So there's a behavioral change that is also involved with the transition from IC engines into e-mobility. The third of course, is the favorite of all. Yeah, it's the cost of ownership. But to the benefit of us, we've seen that the cost of ownership is something that is going through a downward trend. It's been a sloping graph, and this is being largely even bridged with government interventions through incentives. So that's very, very beneficial. And the overall I mean, if I can just get into some stats over here to say that the start of the last decade, we were looking at battery prices being one of the most essential components going into an electric car. And the battery prices per kilowatt was something around $500 per kilowatt. As of 2019, 2020, this number is somewhere hovering around 150 to 160 kilowatt, again, depending on the kind of battery technologies. But experts suggest that by 2030, this number should be hitting around 60 to $65 per kilowatt. So what this essentially is telling us is as scale grows, adoption grows, and as adoption grows, again, scale grows. It's like a positive helix that grows up, that pushes cost of ownership. Yeah. And the current price you said is $150 per kilowatt? Yes, hovering around that range. And this price was predicted, or this price comes as a surprise, meaning that is it lower than it was expected, or it is in line with predictions? Well, different sources of predictions have different numbers, but the average expectancy that was predicted was by the 2020s, we would be somewhere below the 200 mark. I think 150 is somewhere within this range comfortably. So in many ways, it is to say that the predictions were right. So, yeah. Do you think we could apply the same type of optimism to the 2030 prediction, or do you feel we're going to stay at the mark of $65 per kilowatt? Well, again, that depends. One of the factors that has really affected is the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's been a huge game changer for various industries, right? The semiconductor shortage, the logistics being right now tested to its limits is also playing a role. So we have to see how this trend is going to be changing, especially for the next couple of 2-3 years. And that would probably give us a better trajectory to forecast towards 2030. This is a very important factor for the adoption of the technology, and it's extremely promising to see that price decline. Excellent. So let's move to the last question for the panel discussion, which is to Mr. Zaimi. And again, we go back to the blueprint. So, which I've been studying quite a bit, to accelerate the transition to a more sustainable mobility landscape, the public-private partnership is important. I personally believe that this is one of the key enabling factors, actually. Looking at the low carbon blueprint, where do you see the biggest impact of public-private partnerships? And also, after you give me your answer, Jaime, I would ask the other speakers if they have any comment on this particular topic of public-private partnership, if you have any comment at all. Over to you, Jaime.
Yeah, I think why that is important is to get the speed. This is one of the key elements, because if you go into the government funding, it might take a much longer path, and then there is a lot of interest coming from private sectors on this particular area as well. Especially we're talking more on the electrifications, and it's quite a heavy investment requirement. So for the electrifications, the opportunity is on the EV charging infrastructure. That is one of it, especially for the DC charging networks. So based on our assessment, the business model is not that straightforward. So it requires a bit of an intervention as well, coming from the government. Within the blueprint itself, they also target on electrifying the government fleet, or going into the zero emission vehicles for the government fleet. So this will also lead onto the requirement of having this EV charging infrastructure at all the government buildings and related usage of the vehicles within the government needs. So all this will come into the focus area of the PPP as well. Another thing that is being heavily looked at is on the electric bus applications. So we are targeting to have about 10,000 electric bus by 2030. It's maybe a small number for some countries, but for Malaysia it's quite a huge numbers. And then all these electric bus will require infrastructure works. We're using a lot of a word like a retrofit, which is actually applied for the electric bus application as well. You're looking into the existing depot or terminal. The infrastructure works that need to be put to enable the terminal or the depot to cater a huge fleet of electric bus is also quite substantial. So these are the area that we're looking into the PPP at least. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. Any other comment on this particular issue of private-public partnership moving forward?
Yeah, in my view, I think it is a very, very important step, especially the synergies that come between the public and private. One of the key areas that I see that this bridging can happen is through technology. Yeah, for example, I think this was something that Mr. Chow also touched earlier, is to look at multimodal modes of getting from point A to point B. And at Siemens, we use the intervention of technology to move people from A to B. So it could be taking a train for the first leg, to move into a cab to the second, to move into an electric vehicle to the third, to take an e-bike in the last leg to get to your office. So all this legs of transportations is kind of brought into a certain single platform that is easily accessible on say a user's smartphone, and you could pay for it, you could charge your car for it. Everything has a benefit when it's made as easy and convenient when it's there on your smartphone. So I think this is very, very interesting. It should be the way forward in terms of cities, especially because cities are already there. The infrastructure at different levels keep getting upgraded as and when technologies come in, but the cities as such are already there with their existing systems of rails and road systems. Yeah. So that was just my view on it.
Any final comment from you, Mr. Chow?
Yes, please. I agree fully. I think we are all in agreement that smart partnership becomes very important between especially the public and the private sector. I mean, for the very reason, even if we look at sustainability being a combination of, if you like, profit, policy, planet, and people. So the policy part will need the government to come up with very clear policies to guide the whole development of cities and the whole country. With respect to profit, then corporate sectors may need to come in. Businesses, for example, because these are the sources of money, funding, as well as technology. So, I mean, in a way, better communication and understanding, I think, across all these different stakeholders will be needed. One very clear example is actually the very project that we are now actively involving with Kuala Lumpur City Hall, or DBKL, in trying to transform Wangsa Maju into a carbon neutral growth center by 2050. And over there, we see actually, we are trying hard to actually promote a very good partnership between the city council itself with the corporate sectors that are within the Wangsa Maju area. as well as working with the people. And we are beginning to see some real projects in the process of being put on the ground. And the university then also steps in by providing the input, technology, know-how, and so on. So definitely, PPP, very, very important for us to actually progress towards a more sustainable future, especially in cities. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been a very exciting discussion. I hope it's been also interesting for you. We've come to the end of this panel discussion. And unfortunately, this is all we have time for today. As usual, it would be nice to keep going, but we'll do it next time. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement in this very exciting and insightful discussion. It has been productive. Hopefully, it's been productive for you. Certainly, it has been very interesting for me. We appreciate your interest in learning more about cutting-edge technologies that help with the sustainability transition. We hope that you have found the session insightful, learning from our esteemed speakers, which I thank again. If you're interested in learning more about our programs, I'm talking about BCSD programs and activities, kindly visit our website, bcsd.ny, or just leave your email in the chat box and we will get back to you as soon as possible. We look forward to seeing you for the next event. Check it out on our social media. Stay safe and do stay in touch. Thank you and see you again.